Hey everyone, my name is David. I'm the blogger you can find at makemomentsmatter.org. I'm just a kindergarten through 5th grade music teacher, but I love sharing about my lessons and about my classroom, and I'm really excited that you've come along with me on the journey to spend a little bit of time tonight at this Musical Mondays live video where I share a little bit more about my classroom. If you're really excited about what you hear tonight, you can find me in other places. I have a podcast, Make Moments Matter, a music education podcast. I share on my blog, makemomentsmatter.org. You can find me on Pinterest, where I just pin away all my favorite ideas. Basically, you can find me all over when you search Make Moments Matter or my name, David Rao. Well, I'm really excited you decided to spend a little bit of time with me tonight, or if you're watching the replay through the week or later on. Thanks for taking the time to come and spend a little bit of time and talk with me about music education. It's great that you did that, and I hope that it helps a little bit in your classroom. I'm excited to say this is week 15 of these videos. I don't know what I thought would happen when I started doing these weekly live videos, but it feels a little crazy that I'm on week 15. And so one of the things that I'm doing, because it's sort of a cool milestone, I guess, is that I've created a feedback form. I do this every couple weeks so that I can really get a gauge of what's working and what's helpful and what's not. So at the end of the video, if you go to the recap page of the video, which is makemomentsmatter.org/video/Musical Monday Recap, or you can just check the caption in Facebook or check my link in profile in Instagram. You can find a link to that recap page, and on that page is a link that has a very brief survey. It'll take you like 3 minutes, 5 minutes if you actually fill out the little quick leave a short answer section. But that really does help me know what is helpful to you and what is worth spending more time talking about and thinking about and discussing. So if you do that survey for me, it really, really helps me know what to do going forward. But also there is a little thank you freebie at the end of the survey, and I'll just say that I won't tell you what it is, but I'll just say that it is something brand new that I added to my store not too long ago, my Teachers Pay Teacher store. And it's free to you if you do the survey, and it's pretty fun, something that might help you in centers and help you out in your teaching. So if you do that survey for me, I really do appreciate it, and it really does help me know what is helpful for you going forward. Speaking of that, I was just at the National Conference for the American Orff Shulwerk Association, which I'm a member of, and a lot of people there come up to me and said, thank you so much for blogging, or I love your videos, or I listen to your podcast when I'm out running, or silly things like that. And I'll just say it's really cool to hear, but more than that, it's just really helpful feedback, because I kept telling people at conference, I was like, that's great to hear, because honestly, I sit alone in my home office talking to my phone or my iPad or to a microphone or something, and I don't always get the feedback of oh yeah, that's really helpful. I can see how many people have watched videos or whatever, but it's really great to hear oh yes, I'm a new teacher and it's really helpful, or I'm a veteran teacher and it's cool to see how we do things that are similar. It validates what I'm doing, or it's cool to see how you do things differently, or whatever. So that feedback is really helpful to hear from people in person. But like I said, that's why I'm doing this survey at the end of this video, so that you can give me feedback about what you're seeing or hearing and what's good to hear going forward. Speaking forward, since it's week 15, this is a cool milestone, but also it is a cool sort of break point. This is going to be my last Musical Monday video for a little while. I'm taking a little bit of a break because it feels like the semester is starting to wrap up, but for music teachers, that means concert, and obligation and everything else that we have to do. And so my brain is in crazy concert mode. I have a concert on Thursday. So I need just a little bit more time to regroup. So I'm going to take a break from the weekly live videos, do some other things, podcast, blog, and I'm planning to bring back the Musical Monday videos probably in January. So your feedback really helps me know what you would like to hear going forward. I'm going to regroup a little bit. I have some fun ideas. A lot of people have said it really is nice to watch the videos because it feels like I'm connecting to a music ed community. And so I've got some cool things in the works that hopefully will help us feel even more like a community and continue the discussion from these videos. But that's coming. So like I said, this is the last Monday I'm going to do it weekly, but I'll be back soon. as we do this video today, I wanted to just say that your questions and your comments and your feedback throughout the video are very, very helpful. A lot of people have come to me and said, you know, I didn't get to watch the video live. I watched it a couple weeks later. It was great to see, because especially on Facebook Live, if you comment in real time, as that person is rewatching the video in like 3 or 4 weeks, if I'm saying something about like solfege and you're commenting about solfege, as they're watching, it pops up as if it's live. So they get to see all that feedback in real time. So it really does feel like a conversation for a lot of people. So your comments and your questions and your feedback as we're going are really, really helpful. So thanks so much for leaving those questions and comments as we go. Well, last week I did a quick K-5 rundown. So this week I'm not going to give you the same rundown because I'm teaching the same lessons. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about instrument exploration, a little bit about instrument organization, and then jump into my 2nd grade lessons for the week. So first I wanted to talk, I've been talking a lot in the last couple weeks about hand drums and tone blocks because I've been using them a lot with my younger kids, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. I have a class set of both. And so I wanted to share just a couple things that I'm doing with them that might be fun, might be interesting, might be cool for you to adapt for your room. So last week I talked a little bit about tone blocks, or maybe 2 weeks ago I talked about tone blocks. Here's my tone block. I have a whole set of these sort of blonde colored tone blocks. And one of the things that I would do with kids is in a rotation we would do, you know, a copy and echo a pattern, or echo, copy a pattern. So then they would play. And then I do it again. And then they would play. And we did that back and forth 3 or 4 times, and then we would rotate. So the kid next to them got their instrument, and then they would clap, or vice versa. And I would go back and forth. And the next rotation I said, I believe I said in the last video, that one of the things that I would do with kids would say, okay, now that you got your tone block, you know, we're playing right here on the edge, because like if this were an ice cream cone, you eat all the ice cream out first, and then this is the cone part. The first place you take a bite is probably right here. And that's the best place to put your mallet. So that's where I like taught them is the sweet spot to play. But then I said, you know, let's try another spot. I'm gonna play a pattern and you might play here, or 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 you might play with this part of the mallet, or you might play with that. And I let them explore a little bit. So I would go, and they would go, or I might do, and they could do. And I really didn't care where they played on the instrument as long as they're doing my rhythm. So that gave them a little bit of freedom, but still wasn't so scary, like just play wherever you want. So it wasn't just banging on the instrument. It was they were actually carrying out the task of playing the rhythm I gave them, but they're just playing in a different spot. That was cool for them, and it was cool for me. It was cool to see them explore, and they listened for different sounds and how things were different. Of course, they wanted to play in the inside because it looks like the mallet should go right in there. Like kids are like, obviously, you know, like they think all those puzzles and games that they have to complete, you know, when they're growing up, like that's like obviously the answer. So they tried that but didn't like the sound very much, didn't like how they had to control the mallet that way. It didn't really work right for them. So we kept going on and playing and exploring, and they tried different sounds, tried different things, playing with different parts of the mallet. And that happened last week. And then one of the other sort of culminating activities that we did is that we would play with a steady beat. And they would play with me, and we'd play together. We did all of that, and that was cool. This week, I wanted to try something a little bit different. I was absolutely inspired by what I saw at National Conference for the American North Shulverk Association last weekend. And so I wanted to just play a little bit with kids. And so we did our rotation of, you know, echoing, copying, and then I stopped talking. One of the things that I love when you go to a conference, any conference where you're seeing great music educators present, is like, I should talk less. I should just do more, and I should talk less. And so that's what I did. And as we were passing around, I pulled out just nonverbal things, and instead of saying like, now pass the person on your left, I just walked by and did this and pointed to their left. And that was something that sort of just cut out some of the talk and made things go a little faster. So then what I did was I sat down next to kids, and I held up my 2 things, and I took the mallet and I put it down on the ground. Here, I just cut out the words. So I did this. And the kids went, unicorn. I was like, And the kids went, Coke. And I was like, yeah, Coke, let's stick with that. And then I went, I went, rocket ship. Yes. And so then I did a couple different things, and I would take them and I put them in like the shape of bowling pins. And so we tried bowling pins, and then I did moo, and they thought that was fun. So we did that. And I tried, 5 or 6 or 7 different things. And one of the really fun things that came from that is that kids started looking at this in a different way. Last time we talked about different places to play, different ways to play, and now they were thinking with their imagination, what else could it be? And so we went back and forth and did 5 or 6 different things, and then I would do, they would play, they would play, they would play, they would play, and then we switched. And then I took the instruments and I went like this. Lollipop, they said. Okay. Some kid, this was cool because some kids said conductor, and other kids said Harry Potter. And I was like, interesting. Either way, I like the answer either way. And they thought that was fun. And then we tried, and eventually we came up with X, and I went, T. I tried to make an H, it didn't work. I grabbed another mallet, I made an H. Doing just different things. And one of the fun things about that is you're just really sort of exploring what the instrument could be, what you could create. And then we did a couple of them together, and this was actually harder. So we did this, and I went, like, sipping a drink. Some of the things, and then kids, one of the things they came up with was really fun. So one of the things that I did, one of the last things I did with both of them is I set this on the ground, and then I went, and 3 or 4 kids were like, you went fishing. It was just really fun to explore what the instruments could be past being instruments. And sort of the fun thing about that is that they're trying out different ideas in their head. They're making connections. They're connecting this to different ages, and they're connecting to their schema, which is their understanding of different world objects, and they're just making connections that maybe they wouldn't have before. And that's cool later on when you try and ask them to do things like connecting sounds of instruments to animals. Like, how does this sound like a cow? Or does this sound like something else? Does this sound like crackling leaves? Well, they can't really make those connections unless they start thinking that those sounds can be other things. And so this is just a fun way to play around and try new things and to explore the instrument and also make some sort of outside connections. I did this with K and 1. You could absolutely do it with preschool. I did it a little bit with 2nd grade, but maybe not nearly as much. It's really, really fun for kindergarten or 1st grade, especially if you have a whole class set or a half class set or a partial class set, and you can have them play and explore with it. We just did this in our sort of a circle time at the beginning of class. You could do it in small groups, and you could have them come up with different ideas to share with the class. You could just have them do it for themselves. There are a lot of options. One of the things I wouldn't want to do is just put one kid on the spot, like, what can you do? But maybe if they were in a group, they could come up with some ideas if you wanted. But really, this was just exploration altogether, seeing what these things could be. It would be really, really easy to do that same thing with drums if you wanted, because obviously you could do like car, or you could do, hat, or you could come up with, cereal. I mean, there are so many things that the drum could also be. I haven't done that with kids yet. I've just really been playing around with the tone blocks with them. And another thing about tone blocks I love is that they're like indestructible. I mean, these things are really pretty inexpensive, and if it breaks, I really don't care all that much as I would if a hand drum broke. So it's fun to do that with tone block, and it's pretty low stress. So tone blocks continue to play a big part in my classroom. Last year I didn't really do anything with tone blocks, but this year I was like, darn it, I got a class set. I need to like find something to do. So I sort of challenged myself that I had all those instruments. I should see how I could incorporate them. And I've been doing a lot with them and found that they're a really valuable instrument to have around. So thank God that somebody, you know, I don't know, 20 years ago bought a whole class set. When I first walked in, I was like, why would you have all of those? And now I'm glad I do. So it was sort of a fun thing to play around with and explore. I want to show you just a little bit about my hand drums and some of the things that I do with hand drums. Just a little bit about organization. So I bought a set of hand drums. You can buy, I think, a set of 5 from Remo. I don't have Remos, I have Basic Beat. And these come in a set of 5. They're nesting, so they go together. I think if you buy them in the set of 5, there's a slight discount instead of if you buy them, you know, one at a time. And I like that there are multiple sizes. You know, I think when I first started teaching, I thought, if I'm going to buy a class set, I want them to all be the same size or whatever, just for consistency or just because I want that middle tone or whatever, I don't know. But I remember back in the day thinking like, oh yeah, if I'm going to buy hand drums, I would want a lot of the same size. Well, it's nice to have odd sizes and different sizes. And so one of the things that I've done is that when I put them away, I have 3 sets, so 15 drums total. And it's nice that they nest together, but I always found that kids had a hard time figuring out how to put them together and how to nest them correctly. It just took them longer than I wanted it to. And it just was a frustrating process. I felt like I had to keep going over doing it. So one of the things that I've done, and I've shared about this on Instagram, is that on the inside of the drum, on the wooden frame part, right where the drum head meets the frame, I just took some tape and I stuck it right inside. It's not actually on the drum head itself, it's actually just on the frame. This is floor tape. I use this all the time. You can find it in PE catalogs, but it comes in a bunch of colors. It's super sticky. It's very resilient. So because it's, you know, on the floor, it's supposed to stay on the floor, and it does not leave a residue. So it's super great. And so one of the things that I like is that inside I put them in rainbow order, honestly. So the largest drum is red, and it goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue. I don't need to go past that because I don't have any other drums, but this has made it so easy to take over. So I just say red goes first. And so when we're putting away, the kid who has the red drum carries that over carefully and puts that down. And then after that, we say, okay, what color comes after red? And it's orange, and that kid brings over the orange drum, and they take it and they nest that inside. And then after that come the next 3 colors. That has made it so easy to put away. It's just ridiculously fast, and it is it makes so much more sense to kids. Sometimes I'll have kids who, if they're like one color, if they're, you know, all 3 green kids are going together, one kid with green might try and stack it on another kid with green. I don't know why they have the impulse to do that, but I always say like, well, you know, what color comes before green? And then they say, oh, you know, yellow, and so then they put the green inside the yellow, and then that fixes that. But it makes it a lot quicker to nest, and the kids like it. They think that it's visually appealing. One of the things, I've had this on there for quite a while, and kids have not picked at it. And they have not, well, at least not successfully, and they've not really pulled at it. But the nice thing is that it's, like I said, it's floor tape, so it'd be really, really easy to replace if I wanted to. But it just makes my life a lot faster. And it's colorful and fun, and I just put the one strip of color inside, and it makes things go a little bit faster. If you're buying hand drums, I would say these Basic Beat have worked really well for me. I know that for a while the Remo drums there was like a peeling issue, but I heard from friends at West Music that Remo has fixed that issue, so you could buy Remo. But the Basic Beat are less expensive, and I got 3 sets through an Adopt the Classroom grant. And so I was like, well, I can get 3 sets of Basic Beat, and I can't get 3 sets of Remo, because at the time they were trying to fix things, and then they just weren't available, but then they were going to also be more expensive. So I got these, and I have had no issues with them, but ask your friends if you're interested in getting some of them to see sort of what other people say about them. I know a lot of people like the idea they've seen on Pinterest where you take the hand drum and you hook it on the wall. I don't do that because I don't really have the wall space. It's sort of cool to visually see that, but again, I don't have the wall space, one, but also I have had too many things fall off my wall, like posters not holding up. So it's like, I'm not gonna put a drum on the wall if I don't think a poster's gonna stay up there. So I haven't tried that, but I know a lot of people have had some really fun success with that. And I would love to hear how they get those drums off and put those drums away. So if you're listening and you do that, it'd be cool to hear how easy is it to put them away, to hand them out, and that sort of thing. Do kids choose them? The cool thing about this when I'm handing out drums is that I just have the stack and I hand them out as I like. I wonder if you had them on the wall, do you have to go collect them and hand them out? Do you have kids choose? So if you are listening and you have drums like that, please chime in because it would be cool to hear sort of how you're doing that. Okay, so that's just a little bit about tone blocks and hand drums. They're going to come back in just a second. But I just wanted to share those couple quick tips and just share a little bit about that. So you had a little bit of a background. Tanya says, I hung drums at the beginning of the year. It's not working so well. Tanya, share some pictures because I want to see how that's working and how you did set it up and how, and hear some war stories about fighting with the 3M command hooks. Okay, well, I want to take you through my second grade lessons for the week and share just a little bit about how I do that. I'm doing a little bit of recycling with this lesson. And the recycling is that I'm taking resources I've already created or taking resources that I'm already using and using them in new and different ways. So that starts actually at the beginning of class. So when kids come in for the last 3 or 4 weeks, first it started with tone blocks where I handed out tone blocks to every other student. Because they're sitting in a big circle, so every other kid got a tone block, and we talked in that day about patterns, and we were doing block, no block, block, no block, block, no block. And they sort of were like, okay, I'm not getting a block, but it's because there's a pattern. It's not that he's just, choosing to not give me one, right? And so doing that pattern was great. So, and then we would do echoing and exploring and all sorts of stuff. The second week of tone blocks, I did the same thing of every other. We talked about not hitting too hard. We talked a little bit about mallet hold. And my sort of fun realization with kids is I said, take it and turn it into a balloon. Okay, here's the balloon, here's the string. Oh no, it's flying away, grab it. And when you grab it like you're holding a balloon, they always hold it like this, which is surprising. Or sometimes like this, but most of the time like this. And I say, you got to really control it. So get those top 2 fingers really holding nice and tight. And then this is sort of a cool mallet hold, because otherwise, if you just let them do whatever, they might hold it like this. Some kids hold it like a pencil. Some kids hold it other ways. But when you say balloon and hold it like a balloon, hold it tight like a balloon, they hold it like in the perfect mallet procedure. I don't know. That's worked for tone blocks. Try without with your kids and see if it works for them. But for some reason, the balloon hold has worked really well. So we work out on that second rotation, second time with instruments. We work out some of the problems, kinks, whatever. We refine what we're doing and we get really good. We do both rhythms and then we also do steady beat. And that works really well in that second rotation. Then the next time they come in, instead of handing out tone blocks, I hand out hand drums. And we've done some hand drum stuff. We go back and forth, and again, because it's every other kid, if you're not playing, you're padding, or if it's tone block day, you're doing that. And we rotate and play around with that. Right, okay, so then today in this rotation, they come in, we do our circle, we do all of that, and I hand out every other kid gets a tone block, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't get the tone block, or I got the tone block, or whatever. And then this time I go walk around, and the kids who don't have tone blocks get hand drums. And so if you don't have a tone block, you got a hand drum, and you get to participate in that way. And so it's really fun at first to say, everyone together, and I clap, or whatever, and then they repeat on their instrument. And if it's a tone block, it's a tone block. If it's a hand drum, it's a hand drum, and they play their own way. And we do that 3 or 4 times, and then I say, okay, only tone blocks, and I do a pattern, and they repeat. And then I do about 2 of those. And I say, great, only hand drums. And I do 2, and they do 2, and I do 2, and they do 2. And so then I say, okay, all together, great. And so they do that for a little bit, and then we switch. And we do that same procedure of all together, only tone blocks, only hand drums, everyone together, great, and switch. Then we do like 2 or 3 together, and I say, tone blocks, I want to see if you can just keep a steady beat. So I clap, and they just do the steady beat, steady beat, steady beat, and they play their beat, and I say, hand drums, now you are going to echo me. Tone blocks, keep going. And I clap, and they play on the hand drum, and I clap, and they play on the hand drum. All the while, the tone blocks are going. And you can see there are some kids who they play the rhythm on the tone block. Some kids look a little confused. Some kids are like ignoring the hand drums and are doing their own thing. It's just really cool to see them playing separate parts, different things. And it was really successful the first couple times that I've done it, because Well, I don't know why, because maybe because they've had a couple weeks of practicing on both the different things, or because they're just really focused on their own thing, but they were really successful and it was really cool to see. So we did that, and then we would rotate. And so then the next kids would get to play the tone block steady beat, and the other kids would repeat the echoing back and forth. And that was really, really cool. I see a question on Instagram that says, with steady beat, do you play background instrumental music, different tempos? Sometimes, yes. I do that more with kindergarten. In this specific time, we really just do a steady beat, and maybe I'll say, you keep your steady beat, don't let me mess you up, and I do something else. Usually it's in kindergarten or in another activity in first grade that I'll have the music playing and we keep the steady beat. Or maybe we do something like the Imperial March from Star Wars where we keep the steady beat with the bum, 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 ba-da, bum, ba-da. And then there's a part in the middle that goes where it's like sort of in another section of the song that doesn't have that very firm steady beat, so we would do something else. And so then when the steady beat comes back, we play it again. But I don't do as much of that in this second grade lesson, but more just keeping a steady beat together for different things. Okay, so that back and forth and trying different things is really cool, and it really does sync up with some of my standards right now, which are playing independently of others, or playing a steady beat while another group plays something else, or working independently. There are a lot of different standards that fits into, but it's just a great experience to have, because then later when they're playing like a bourdon on a xylophone instrument, or if they're playing an ostinato pattern and we're doing something else, or when we get into canon, it's good to be able to play independently, and this is an easy way to ease them into it, because it's something it's a procedure they're familiar with, of the sitting in the circle and playing, and it doesn't feel like there are no high stakes in this. It's just trying different things. So from then, we put our instruments and things away, and we do a little bit of echo singing, we do some other things, and I just do a quick recap of solfege. So right now, my second graders are just recapping what we did in first grade, which is la, so, mi, and do. And I have on the board these hand signs. I've had these up for a couple years, but I've really started using them in the past year or so. I know they're backwards, I'm sorry. But I have these yellow things are really, really old. I made these a long, long time ago. But what I added on are some dots, and I've colored them just with rainbow colors. I also made a set of these with boomwhacker colors. But it's nice to have because it has a very clear word in here, and then also the hand sign. Before on these little yellow things, which I'm pretty sure I got from Music with Mrs. Dennis, which is a blog. It's a great blog. You should check it out. And I'm pretty sure it was just a freebie, these hand signs. The word was pretty small, so I wanted it to be bigger. I wanted to sort of color code it because I love color coding. And so I made these dots. What it's time to upgrade to, because I made them and I need to just cut them out. I've got these solfege hand signs with a lot of different skin tones, a lot of variety, and I'm planning on cutting these out and getting these ready for my bulletin board, or for my whiteboard. I just need to find the time, not in a concert week, maybe on Thanksgiving break, to cut all those out. And I plan to sort of just vary the skin tones and sort of switch them out every once in a while if I need to. A couple tricks about these on the back, because, on the back of these hand signs, I just took some magnets. These are sheet magnets, but if you were to peel this off, you would see that there's a calendar on the back side. So at the end of the year, which is coming up, when banks and grocery stores and schools and whoever are getting rid of those reminder calendars, those magnet calendars, a lot of times you can find stacks and stacks of these magnets, and you just cut them up and reuse them and tape them to the back of things and use them over and over. So this is something that I use a lot. I've also used the words without hand signs, and I just have these, actually they're on coasters, just cork coasters that I got from Amazon, and I sort of hot glued some more magnets on the back. And these are really cool when you get into doing actual lines on the whiteboard and you want to just have a quick label up there. These are nice to have and to move around and use it as you want. So I have those sort of ready to go too, but I like that they match the hand signs on the side so that kids can reference these and still see these. And so pretty soon we're also going to be manipulating and using these hand signs and the labels and different things as I dictate to them. Solfege that they're going to write on a simple little 3-line staff, and some other things, but it's nice to carry that theme through. So I've got this resource in like 3 or 4 or 5 different sizes, and I have it with hand signs or without, so that when we're doing it, they go, oh yeah, this connects to what we did before because it looks the same. So that's one of the things that I did last year, is that I made sure that all of those sort of resources lined up, so that when I'm talking about solfege and we're dictating or we're doing a different activity with that, it all sort of fits in together, and they can see it visually, because solfege is just tricky even with hand signs. It's sort of this thing it doesn't have a lot of structure to it, because it's not like you can just put your fingers down and play a note, or press and play, or play the right bars. You're using your voice, and that you can't just go like la. You have to. Giving the hand sign gives it a concrete thing. So giving these visuals that are similar in all places has really helped my kids make those connections. I call these music dots, and I've had them for a long time. It first started out with these dots, the lines and spaces of the treble clef, and I've used that for like years and years. And then I added solfege, and then I added body percussion and a bunch of other stuff. So I put a link to that in the Musical Mondays recap if you're interested in trying that out. But what we do in this lesson is we just have a really quick, maybe 3 or 4 minute thing where we sing back patterns, where I sing them solfege and they sing back, and I sing and they sing, or maybe I show them signs and they sing, or maybe we do different things, or I try and use it in a lot of different ways so they can see all the ways that solfege connects. We maybe talk about decoding maybe, but usually we don't do that. A lot of this stuff happens really quick at the beginning of the lesson. The drums and tone block, exploration, and solfege maybe takes 15 or 20 minutes of the 45-minute lesson. It's just a really quick way to get it in every lesson, so that we're continually using that throughout the year. And sometimes we'll spend more time in a lesson, but I like to be able to hit it every time. I see kids once every 8 school days, so getting in repetition every time is really important, because if I leave some of this out for even a lesson or two, it's a month and a half between when we talked about it last time and when we talk about it now. So it's good for me to rehash those things over and over. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm talking this time about reusing and recycling things. Well, the hand drums and tone blocks I've used over and over in the last few lessons. I'm just using them in different ways in this lesson. And same with these. I've used them last year, I used them this year, I'm going to use them again later in the year, but taking that resource, making it once, and reusing it over and over means that I'm getting the most out of that time I spent laminating and cutting, but also it means that I'm really using that resource as much as I can. So in the last part of the lesson, I go back to this resource, which I talked about 5 weeks ago, which are these rhythm cards with foods on them. And I'm going to talk about them in just a second. I'm going to show you sort of how I do it, but I'm going to have to move these cameras. And again, I'm just going to say that I'm using these because a couple weeks ago, we really for the first time named a quarter note, eighth notes, and a quarter rest. And we talked about how to read them in basically a 4-beat pattern. We talked about a couple measures at a time. We did that through the Note Neighborhood, which is what I use in my classroom. It's just this silly sort of set of stories that I made up that kids love for some reason. But that's how we introduce them. So this is really my first sort of deviation from that, where they're going to see those notes and rests in a new way. So let me just turn these around really quick, and I'll show you sort of how I do this. Welcome to the other part of my office. Let's see if I can get these flipped around. Okay. Let's see. There we go. And here we go. Okay, so let me get you all tilted up here. Hold on a second. Instagram. There we go. And Facebook. Sorry, I'm getting this worked out. Okay. All right. Here we go, y'all. So what I do with these is that I say, oh my gosh, it's almost Thanksgiving, and I'm so excited that you're here to help me, because I really do need some help with these food words. And so what I do is I say I've got all these foods, all different kinds of foods, and what I need you to do is to help me out, because you're going to be sort of the cooks. And I need you to find some really good foods. I've got 30 different foods in here. And I want you to choose 8 foods that you really like. And now I'm going to put you in smaller groups. I'm going to put you in just a few little groups, and you and the partners in your group are going to have to take these words and find your favorites. And so I put them in groups of really about 3 or 4. And I say the first thing you're going to want to do is to spread out all your different words, to check your options, see what you got. I did a lesson with these with my 3rd graders a couple weeks ago, but this is with my 2nd graders, and we're doing something just a little bit different. In that lesson, I had this little poem called Everything Stew, and we created these patterns together. And the ultimate goal was to get kids to do sort of an end ensemble with 3rd grade where they did a poem, and then one group did their word chain pattern, and then they did a poem, and another group did their word chain pattern. What I found with 2nd grade is that 2nd grade doesn't really look at them sort of that way, and they're thinking about things a little bit differently. So I have kids spread them out, and I say, I need you to find your 8 favorite words. So they choose from those. Let me just see out of here. Let's see. I love apples. I like coffee. I don't like milk. I don't really drink tea. I absolutely love garlic. Yes, turkey. Of course, butter. Cheese. Absolutely. Peas. And let's see. I'm going to throw in pumpkin pie. Okay, so obviously these are sort of Thanksgiving slanted words, but I am using them because, hey, whatever, it's the correct season. So let me zoom in a little bit here. So what we then do with this is that they usually make this pattern, and up on the board I sort of change the order, so I want them to do something more like this. I want them to do 4 on top and 4 on bottom. And if they look at the visual on the board, they can see that it's sort of separated. So it's got, let's see if I can move this up even further, Instagram. Yeah, there we go. So it's got 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. And then I say, great, now once you've got it, let me see if you can read all those words. Garlic, apple, coffee, turkey, peas, pumpkin pie, butter, cheese. Oh, wow, great. Okay, so then they read through and they try those different words, and they maybe find a pattern. I say, but if you don't like what you've got, you can change it up. And a lot of times I'll show kids this, where I've got this whole row, the top row is all, it's sort of boring. And I say to kids, you see the word for the food, you see the little picture, and then what's next to it? The notes, yeah. And we talk about the notes, and then I say, garlic. How many syllables does that have? At my school, one of the things they do is when they're trying to find syllables, they clap it and they go, garlic. Well, it's got 2 syllables. Okay, so then I say, look, it's got garlic, 1, 2, just like ta, 1, 2. Oh, great, look at apple. Apple. Ta. And you can see some gears turning with kids. They start making that connection. I move down to something like this. Pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie. Ta-dee-ta. That's really 3 heads. 1, 2, 3. Because we talk about the note head, especially in note neighborhood. That's where their literal head is on the little pictures. So I say pumpkin pie. That was 3 heads, like for the 3 sounds, and it made a ta-dee-ta. Perfect. So then I say, if you have a row, like the top row, that's all ta, and you think that's sort of boring, what you can do instead is you can switch out some of those things. So maybe you'd put in, instead of coffee, you could put something that doesn't just have ta, like ta-dee. And then kids are starting to look at them as not just foods, but also as notes and rests. And that's sort of cool, because this is really the first time they've done that, and the first time they've sort of played around with this idea of the word and the syllables matching the notes. So we have a lot of fun with that, and I might say, try and come up with a really interesting bottom line that is just dessert. Okay, so then they go in and they might do apple pie, pumpkin pie. Let's see if I've got another dessert in here. Apple cider cookie. Okay, so you could give them an assignment where they have to match the food to the rhythms and to the assignment. Or you could say, I want you to do the whole bottom line just with the yellow cards. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Because there's red and yellow and green. Okay, so then they got that. And then they have to, every time I would say, great, now read it. Okay, mushroom tea, apple cider milk. Great, now read the notes and read the rest. Ta, 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 ta-dee, ta-dee, ta. I use Takadimi as my counting system, and so that's why I'm saying ta and ta-dee and Takadimi, but you can see that, on a blog post I have about counting and rhythm and all of that. Okay, so let's see. Then I might talk about, we can mix it up. We can do, I want you to find all of the notes and the rests, all of the note patterns that are all ta, ta. Great, so we might go ta, 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 finding all the tas. Great, okay, now I want you to do all of the ta-dee tas. Okay, ta-dee ta, ta-dee ta. So now they're looking for words. They really are forced to look at what things go together as far as, the words that match the notes. Okay, so then you might say, great, now choose your favorite, your two favorites that are from the ta category. Okay, or maybe you might say, from each one of these categories, because in the end, there are 5. Let me see if I can find them all. So there's ta-dee ta, there's ta-ta-dee, there's a lot of ta-tas. There's ta-rest, and then there's ta-dee, ta-dee. I'm not sure everyone can see those. Yeah, those 5 categories. Okay, so really there are 5 categories, and this is based on the 5 building bricks that Kate Mon wrote about in her book Elementaria, which is this really great book. If you've never read it before, it's a really awesome book. It's a big part of orchestral work. But she talked about these 5 building bricks. So that's really what these are. And you could say within those 5 different things, I need you to choose your favorite from each stack. Okay, they might do that. Now, maybe you put 2 together and quiz your neighbor and see if they can read those rhythms, or put 2 together and you read them for your neighbor, and you need to read the words and then you need to read the notes and the rests. And so a lot of times, I see someone asking on Instagram, my students tend to pause in between cards, which ruins the flow when we try and do everyone together. Do you have a solution, or just does it take more practice? I do a lot of examples for kids where I don't pause. Or I might go to a small group if they are pausing, and they're doing something like, let me see if I can guess what you're asking about here. Maybe your kids do something like this: turkey, chocolate, or ta, 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 ta-dee. Well, then I would go up to kids and I would say, here, let me do it. Ta, 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 ta-dee. Ooh, I want to switch those around. Ta, ta-dee, ta, ta. And then I see if they can do it. And maybe if I need to, instead of just keeping them going that fast, I'll say, here, try it with me. Here we go. Ta, ta-dee, ta, ta. Sometimes slowing it down like that gives them a chance to sort of cognitively process it and still keep the flow. So they'll stay in time, but they have the process time because you're not going through as fast. I wonder if that makes sense. And I wonder if that would work for your kids, or if you've tried that. Thanks for asking the question on Instagram. If that helps, great. And if not, I love your follow-up question. Because I think I know what you're talking about, and I think my kids have done that. But I would say slow down, give me more process time, and then the other thing would be to give them lots of examples. And then also, just if it's 2nd grade or lower, especially lower, they probably can't process it as fast. 3rd grade or above, I would say they should be able to process it quicker. So this is just one of the ways that I use this. So just to recap, we did 8 in a row, right? We did something where I'd say, okay, now only desserts, or I'd say only one color, or you could say only main dishes, or you could say only things you eat for breakfast, or only whatever. And then you're getting them to use other parts of their thinking and their schema where they're thinking about how that food is used in everyday life, and they're not thinking about the rhythm. Or you could say, now I want you to think about the rhythms and the notes and rests, put the tas together and the ta rests together and the ta ta-dees together and the ta-dee tas together, and have them group by their notes and their rests and not by their words. You know, there are a lot of ways that you can get them to regroup and rethink. And that's one of my favorite things about this resource is that you can use it like a billion different ways, and all of those different ways are getting kids to process the same information in a different way. And so that's really helping them to really, really connect the idea and use it in a lot of different ways. Getting them to test one another, getting them to test other people, getting them to put together their favorite 8 food pattern, to say it for the class. All of those are ways that you're giving them a chance for mastery with these different resources. So one of the things, this is the fall food option, right? These are all fall foods. Another thing you can do Another thing that I've made that might be helpful is that I have the same thing, really, honestly, the exact same idea, only instead of using fall foods, it has foods that you can use all year round. So things that are not necessarily fall specific: blueberries, mushroom, popcorn, baked potato, cherries. I mean, all of these are foods that you can use any time in the year, and kids love playing with foods, and so it's fun to be able to do that with them. Let me see if I've got another example here. This same resource, I also have, I think the food is my favorite way to do it with kids. I also made this resource with, I can't really see it, spring words. So tiny duckling, spring showers, pull this out. So all words that are spring related. Let's see if I can show them over here. It's, like I said, it's the same basic concept, just another way to do it, another way to try it. And then the same resource, here's another example. I did it with, this time, with instruments. So glockenspiel, clarinet, drum, flute. And again, it's the same thing of connecting. You can talk about the different kinds of categories of things. You can have them rearranged by metals or by woodwinds or brass or whatever. You can bring in those different concepts and have them play around, but also really the end focus and end goal is mastery of rhythms and understanding the composition and rearranging and arranging, and that's really their end goal, is them getting to play with that. But in the process, they're playing with foods, they're playing with composition words, and they have a lot of fun along the way. So like I said, these main food rhythms are an option. The fall foods are an option, but I wanted to bring them out and show them to you because, like I said, I brought these out to you, and I showed a lesson in 3rd grade a couple weeks ago where we did this, and we basically turned this into something that we're going to do for our concert. But I wanted to bring it back and to show you a different way to do it with a different grade, because I sort of feel like if you're going to spend the time, well, if you buy them, or if you make them, or if you print them in color, or if you laminate them or whatever, you really should get the most out of it, because you spent and invested so much of your time and sweat energy of you like actually making them, that you should be able to find lots of different ways to use them, which is why I wanted to show you this extra way that you can use it with a lot of different people, or in a lot of different ways with your kiddos. Let me turn this back around here and move y'all back to this side of the room if I can. This thing is going to fall over, I think, but I'm going to do it. Sorry, Instagram folks. Thanks for sticking with me and not falling off. So like I said, because if you've printed that resource, if you made it and you created it and you spent the time doing that, use it in a lot of different ways. One of the other things that I've done is that in the set, you can print them like this, which is 9 to a page. You can print them 4 to a page. You can print them 1 to a page. And so you can use these as like large group, as a flashcard. You can use them in small groups and centers and bag them up. You can use them for all different sorts of things, for composition, arranging, for note reading, for quizzing each other. Use that resource and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it, which is, I think, great that the theme of this sort of lesson is taking something we've already done and recycling it. Because I like I said, if you're gonna take the time to make it, reuse it and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. Basically, by the end of class, what kids have accomplished in this lesson is that they've played around with the words and with the rhythms in a couple different ways. They've either created something that they're reading together as a group, and I'm requiring them to read it all together, and they have to be able to do it together, or they're reading it for the class. We don't always get to that. Sometimes we're just reading with our group, and I'm okay with that. If one class is like, we're done, and they've got their 8-beat rhythm done, I say, great, take the rest of the cards, put 2 out at a time, and see if your neighbor can read it. So you can differentiate in that way and have them move ahead with the lesson if you want, or not. So it's a sort of cool, different thing that you may end up with different things at the end of the class. When it's time to put away, I say, great, we have to do 3 things. I'm going to sing the goodbye song, and by the time I'm done, 3 things need to happen. Don't do them yet. The first thing you're going to do, don't do it. The first thing you're going to do is put them in the bag. All the cards have to be back in the bag. The second thing, don't do them yet. It's that one person needs to bring the bag up and put it in my green basket that I'm holding right here. First thing, you're going to put them away. Second thing, you're going to bring it to the basket. The third thing is that everyone needs to be in your line, lined up quietly. Those are the 3 things. You need to have them done by the end of the song. Ready? Okay, and then I start singing the song, which I've sung before, which is the Korean folk song Arirang, and I sort of rewrote and changed the words to work for my classroom. And usually, if I preview those things they have to do, they actually do have them back in the bag and in the basket and done. By the end of the song, except for that one group that you knew would never be able to get it on time anyway, but you gave them the option. So all those things get put away and then turned in, and then they're ready to go. And that is my 2nd grade lesson. It starts with tone blocks and hand drums. It starts with echoing and exploration, moves to a little bit of solfege, and then goes into rhythms. And I don't get to any fun fall songs, but really this is the time of year where they are really sort of doing more with the notes and the rests. And I know that once we get back from winter break, that we have basically about a month, and then we have to start working on concert stuff. So I really need to get them going with notes and rhythms and rests and reading and all of that now. So I'm willing to forfeit doing a fun Thanksgiving song to do this composition stuff that is still sort of Thanksgiving related because of the theme of the food, but gets them sort of on the track they need to go. So that's my 2nd grade lesson. And if I'm going to quick look back through questions, and see, do you have your own color copier? At my school, I see kids once every 8 days. I have 1,200 students. I have 0 budget, but I do have free color copies. That's the one trade-off that I have. So yes, I have free access to my color copier, but what I would say is that people have emailed me and said, you make a lot of things in color, how do you print them all? And I mentioned, well, I have a color copier. I'm very lucky, but at my old school, I didn't. So one of the things that I would do is that, a lot of parents won't come in and volunteer for the music classroom, but I say, if you'd be able to volunteer to print these cards for me, that would be really helpful. Or if you'd be willing to volunteer to cut out some cards that I've laminated or whatever, and they volunteer that a little bit of time. And if you send out that request to all of 2nd grade, you might hit a couple families that are willing to do that, or grandparents or whatever that have color copiers they're willing to do for you. And so that's sort of cool. Like I said, I'm very blessed to have that color copier, but there are a lot of trade-offs that I don't have. I'd love to see kids every day or every other day. I know a lot of you have that option. I see a couple of people talking on Facebook about whether they get to hang their hand drums or not. I'd love to see pictures. If you're willing and you hang your hand drums, and you have pictures, or you'd be willing to take pictures, I would love if you would come back to this thread tomorrow and post some pictures so we can see how you hang them. And then if you could give a really brief commentary about whether they're staying up for you or not. For Tanya, it looks like maybe they're not, but I would love to know, what are you using? Is it working or not? And how that works. Let's see. A couple other comments there. Let's see. We talked about the age of the tone block stuff, kindergarten, 1st or 2nd. Great. Okay, so I'm going to skip down to that. How many kids do you put in each group with the food rhythms? 3 or 4? I have, I've blogged already and talked about how I use the 4 instrument families for classroom management. So each one of my classes is already pre-divided into 4 different groups. So what I do, if you have a class of 24 or 26 or whatever, that's about, in 4, that's only about 6 kids or so, right? So then I take those 6 kids and I just cut them in half. So half of the brass family goes one place, half the brass family goes another, and you have 3 and 3 in a group. And so that makes it pretty easy to just take my 4 groups and just split them down the middle, especially if you've got those little groups and you're like, these two boys shouldn't be together. Well, you split them apart and you move them to different places. So that's how many, so about 3 or 4 usually about in each group. And like I said, these print 9 to a page. And so I have 8 centers ready to go with 1 backup in case something happens, because I end up with 9 baggies of centers. And so that makes things work pretty well. Have you tried with more experienced kids part work where 2 groups share their grocery lists at the same time? I have not tried that. I have tried where one group keeps a steady beat while the other one does their grocery list. And that sometimes works. It just sort of depends. One of the things that I have done is where you have sort of a chorus, where you, like a poem or something you come back to, and then the kids get to read on their own, and then the chorus, and it's sort of a rondo form, and that works really well. But it'd be cool to have 2 different groups growing at different times. One of the other things that I do often is that when they read their like set of 8, I have them read them, then I have them read the rhythms, then I have them read and clap, and then I have them only clap. Of course, we work into that. But by the time they're done, instead of saying like pumpkin, sweet potato, they're going, and they're just clapping or doing it. And that, as opposed to having 2 groups together, that is a skill that I know they're gonna need and usually works. It's on their level, but I would love to, I'm gonna steal that idea, and with maybe some of my older kids, I'll have them do opposing things. Then they have to really be independent and working on their own. Pre-making groups saves times in decision-making and behaviors. Absolutely right. Janine, I agree. Well, I have my 4 groups already, and it only takes me, like, as I'm walking around calling names, I see all of the red kids, which is all brass, or all the green kids, which is percussion, all the blue kids, which is strings, in my roster. And I can just, as I'm going, only read 3 names and move to the next and only read 3 names. So I don't really have to like sit down and like divide and think in my head. I just read only 3 or 4, and then I move and I read 3 or 4 more. And that makes it pretty easy, but I've already sort of pre-divided them, if that makes sense. Well, that's where I'm going to leave it for this Musical Monday. One thing, if you have any more questions or ideas, please leave them on the video. I will come back to them and try and answer questions and comments and ideas as we go. Like I said, this is my last Musical Mondays video for a little while. I'm going to take a break and rework things and come back. And when I rework and rethink about what's working, what's not, I'm really going to lean on your feedback and what you say is helpful and what you say is not helpful, or what you'd like to hear more about. So if you follow in Instagram on my LinkedIn profile, the link that says Musical Mondays Recap, or in Facebook, if you go to the caption in this, wherever it is, somewhere around here, and click on the link that says Musical Mondays Recap, there is another link that takes you to the survey. Under week 15, there's a link that takes you to the survey, and that'll help me know what really works for you. And also, if you complete that very quick survey, you will also get a free thank you gift from me. So I would love if you would go and take that survey and help me know what would make things better. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great week. Like I said, come back and leave questions or comments if you want, or just send me a direct message. That also works. I'll try and answer things that way. I really appreciate you spending your evening with me. Thanks so much, and have a great week, everyone.